After years of seeing each other through webcams and chat windows, the Esri Canada User Conference has returned live and in person. From keynotes to coffee breaks, networking to wow moments, the UC is where Canada's GIS community comes alive. I'm joined by members of the UC planning team, Mike Gregotski and Mary Jane Maher, to talk about why it matters, what you can expect to see, and why it's about so much more than just maps. Welcome back to Geographical Thinking. I'm Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore ideas, stories, and conversations through the lens of geography. Joining me today are Mike and Mary Jane. Welcome to Geographical Thinking. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me back, Michelle. This is really exciting.
Yeah, Mary Jane, welcome for your first time.
First podcast ever. This should be fun.
Very exciting. But Mike, we've had you here before. Can you give us a little bit of your background, where we currently at in Esri Canada, and maybe some tidbits of why you've been on before?
Yeah, for sure, Michelle. So I am in my current role the program director, conference experience and strategy, which is an exciting role, which allows me to oversee our Esri Canada User Conference that we're having in Toronto, and also our federal GIS conference that we're going to be having in Ottawa. So I was on previously. It's my third time on the podcast. So episode 14, I went back and checked. That was in 2021, where I was on with the digital marketing manager, Colleen Raymond, who is also my wife. And we talked about making geography fun at home. We talked about like a Disney story map that we did with our kids during COVID. And then more recently, I was on episode 96, which was the Geographical Thinking Caps, which was a lot of fun. We had questions about cold and Christmas and that, and I beat up on Raul Chandra and our support team, and that was very satisfying because when I see him in the office, he's like, and I'm like, I know, I beat you. So that was a great time. That was a lot of fun, that episode. Both of them are good. So people go back and take a listen if you like.
For sure. Thank you for giving us your back catalog there, Mike. But Mary Jane, first time on, can you tell us a bit about yourself? What role do you currently sit in?
So I'm currently in the Senior Technical Solution Specialist, Conference Experience role out of the President's Office, which basically means I'm Mike's buddy and kind of help him on with all these conferences, all the conference needs. And I'm here and I'm especially working with our plenary users right now and helping them build out those demos for the big day.
Very exciting.
I like how you had the comma mentioned there, Mary Jane. I didn't mention mine, but that's a good move. That was really nice.
Well, it gets really wordy, so I've gotten used to saying the comma now. Hey, I like to say it's the world's longest title.
Awesome.
I understand. I used to do the same thing with my role before I changed recently, so I get it. The comma really makes a difference, and it's not all one thing. But now that we've covered who's joining us, some experts in conferences, I'm wondering, after a few years of change, the Esri Canada User Conference is back. For someone attending their first user conference, what should they expect?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So what should you expect if you're coming to this conference for the first time? So we are at the Toronto Congress Center. We're out on Dixon Road there, out by the airport, accessible off Dixon Road. Also accessible, I found when going through a site visit through Martin Grove. So there's a couple little areas you can get to there. So if you're coming, go off the Martin Grove entrance. It's a little easier to get to because we are in the north building. So the Toronto Congress Center, I know we're speaking to it in the context of new people who are attending for the first time. We've used this venue for our previous user conferences, and it's just a terrific spot to come into. Great modern venue that we're looking forward to using again. When you arrive at the Congress Center, you're going to really know you're at an Esri Canada conference. We're going to have great signage up. We're going to have wall wraps. We're going to have signage which says you belong here. Great areas where people can be able to take photos and realize that, hey, I'm part of this larger GIS community, which is coming out to, not only learn about Esri solutions, but to also understand about what their community is doing as well. So the conference, it's over 2 days. We have plenary sessions on the first day, which Mary Jane mentioned how she's working with some of our plenary presenters now. We have sessions in the afternoon, which will be some technical sessions, user stories, special interest groups. We're going to have those. There's going to be a great exhibit floor where we have kiosks for our staff to show our solutions, for our partners to show their solutions and learn a lot more, and just many different networking areas. So come prepared, ready to like make connections, come prepared, ready to network, come prepared to learn a lot about geography, learn about GIS, and learn about Esri Canada and what the whole community is doing. So what should they expect? They should expect a lot of good stuff over 2 days, that's for sure.
Okay, a lot of excitement there. And something I'm always excited about is what is the theme for the year? Can I plan an outfit around it? Are we going to get buttons or pins or badges? What's the vibe? So I'm wondering, what is this year's theme? And what are we hoping that users take away from it?
So good luck, Michelle, trying to find something for this year's theme to wear because it's GIS, integrating everything everywhere. And the idea behind a theme is that GIS brings people, ideas, data together. It's making it easier to collaborate, to solve problems and make smarter decisions. And I'm kind of hoping users will walk away with a deeper appreciation of how GIS can be embedded into everyday workflows. So, not just for mapping, but for planning, analysis, innovation, and regardless of industry.
I think we'll still see a couple people dressed for the occasion with some GIS geography themed attire, like a skirt or a tie or something like that. I think that's going to show up and that's going to look pretty good. I bet we'll get a few of those. So we'll see how they dress for the event when the attendees show up. It'll be great.
I would be disappointed if if there weren't any.
Yeah, we'll get a few.
Right. We'll see what we can do. I'll see if we
Yeah.
can get like a group together then.
What's the challenge we're throwing down to the listeners? If you're showing up, put some GIS theme, put some geography things, put some contour pants on, put something. It'll look great.
Okay. Now that we're going to be seeing each other in person, I know that virtual events have been more common for the last 5 or so years. Why is it important to bring people together in that face-to-face environment, other than seeing their outfits, of course?
Yeah, that's a great additional benefit. But there's certain things which I'd say we all kind of know about. Virtual fatigue. People have been doing events and they're kind of like, they're good and there's a place for virtual events, absolutely. And they can get information out. What um, what I find personally, if I'm at an event, is if I remember things more when I'm at a live event than when I do something virtually. Like I will remember the people that I met more. I'll take away different things more. I was at the Esri UC in San Diego, the International UC this year, and I remember lots of different things that I learned there. Previous year, I attended virtually, and I kind of had trouble trying to remember what was even in the plenary and so on there. So you're gonna remember more. You're gonna take in more. You're gonna be present. The biggest thing that I think the benefit of being this in-person event is our community. I mentioned before, this isn't a community. Our community wants together. In my previous role, I would get together with users and show them software and show them great things that we could do um, with our technology. And the number one question that they would always ask is like, how can I talk to someone else who's doing what they're doing, what you're showing, but in an actual place of work? And for us to connect users together with other users is actually it's a harder thing to do in a virtual environment. So if we could bring them together, they're not only going to learn from us, they're going to learn from each other. They're going to be walking the halls. They're going to have that opportunity just to get in there, introduce themselves to each other and say like, hey, what are you doing? Or what projects you've been working on? I'd like to hear more about that. So just, this event's going to be um, a perfect in-person event for all those points.
Hmm. I think bringing people together and hearing those use cases, people that you know, is a really nice, special thing about these kinds of events. I know it's always nice to see somebody that you know throughout the community that also happens to be there from across the Congress Center. It'll be, it's like we've been here the whole time.
You will probably run into people that you know but didn't know were in GIS when you come there as well.
Mhm.
One of the last conferences before COVID, I ran into my neighbor. He showed up right there, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I work for the city of whatever it was." And I'm like, "I work for Esri Canada," and it's just incredible, like how the community will come together.
Mhm.
Another thing is maybe Michelle, you'll appreciate this, but a lot of people are used to seeing you guys, the marketing team, let's say, or the technical marketing team via video, right? So you'll have these little snippets of video and now they get to see you. And it's like, okay, you're a tangible person now.
Michelle will be a celebrity there. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
My favorite game is, am I the height you pictured, or am I wrong? Am I too short? Am I too tall? I love
Most
playing that game with other people.
I find most people I find are generally shorter than I think they're going to be. That's not a knock on your height there, Michelle. That's generally, I'm always like, oh, that's person shorter. But occasionally you're surprised with someone who's a giant, which is kind of fun.
Right. So we'll get to play that game. Now, knowing that this is a long process to plan this sort of event, what all does go into it to plan a user conference of this scale? Something that isn't just a local conference. We're talking about an entire country.
It does take a lot to go into planning a conference like this. And there's lots of different facets, and I'll speak to a couple of them. I know when I started in this role, one of the things I wanted to do was interview users and interview staff. So some users that I was friendly with, um, some users that I didn't know. Actually, I even interviewed people who had appeared on the podcast before, like the No More Noise, Ingrid from No More Noise, and people that I knew were maybe newer to the community, people who'd been around for 20, 30 years. And I just wanted to find out, like, why do you want to come to an event in person? What are you looking for? Um, that was a big part of it, to find out that, like I mentioned before, getting together with the community, networking, talking to people, but then all the other things that play a part. Like, I do want to learn about the technology. I do want to see what these presentations, I do want to speak to the Esri Canada partners a bit they're offering. So that was part of it. We do a pre-conference survey as well to get an understanding of what they can be about, what users want in that context of a conference. That's part of it too. And then really getting staff in place at Esri Canada to get them the place which is where they're going to contribute the most, where they're going to want to be doing work with presentations or working at the booths and so on, or just bringing the event behind the scenes together. Like, that's a part of all of this process.
For me, I'm not from marketing, right? So I come from professional services. I'm usually behind the scenes helping, users with our tools, with our solutions. So when planning this user conference, I found a couple things interesting, right? 2D drawings are actually rarely used. Whether it's for placing podiums and counting every single chair that's going to be placed, and then figuring out, are we putting little tables in front of them or not? And then to even the carpeting. So that was a big shocker for me. We have to find carpeting because the venues are not carpeted. And do we want it plush? And do we want it royal blue? Or do we want it Esri blue? So that was really interesting. And then going back to more serious matters, program is the major focus, right? So we carefully curate sessions and experiences, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of discussion. And we really lean on our subject matter experts to try and shape and content that'll resonate with everyone, and try to figure out what is actually exciting. What do people want to see? Because we can't have our nose in everything, right?
But that's the hard part, and why we lean on those subject matter experts to figure out what topics are we going to talk about, what sessions we're going to have that are going to resonate with our users, because our software um, is used in so many industries, it's used in so many different areas that we can show a lot of different applications of it. How do we figure out what is that main part that we're going to show, and how we're going to make sure people aren't excluded or thinking they don't want to see that? Interestingly, if I go back to the interviews that I did, if I was interviewing someone from a utility, I figured they would want to learn about what utilities are doing, and Esri Canada is obviously doing a great job of getting our information out there to our utility clients, because their comment was, I actually have got a good understanding of how we can use the software to support me in a role at a public utility. I want to see what other organizations are doing. I want to see what provincial governments are doing. I want to see what commercial entities are doing. I want to see what public works teams are doing. So that's a that's an interesting part that just is really hard to thread that needle on what that type of programming is. Not hard, but it's just part of the challenge. I'll also add that as part of this process, both Mary Jane and I have been working, I wouldn't say extensively, but have been working with our team at Esri Inc. in the US about how they run their conferences. So we went down, took some courses with the teams, and I went to Charlotte in, I think it was March. Mary Jane went down to Washington, D.C. just this summer, and just to learn from that team of how their process works on putting all this together too. So you asked about what goes into planning a conference. We could probably do the whole episode on just that question, but I think we've hit the main parts of that.
Okay. I mean, we could talk for a solid 20 minutes about the thoughts behind carpeting. Like, are we getting shag carpeting? But we'll save that
Oh,
for maybe a bonus
that's
episode.
we'll use that for 2026.
Yeah.
I just encourage everyone to, really pay attention and let our team know if they've chose the right carpet.
Some very exciting stuff. I look forward to seeing what are the thoughts. But now that we've thought about that bigger picture, what goes into this, what have been some of the biggest logistical challenges that come with hosting an event of this size? Was there anything surprising?
Sure. Session planning is probably the biggest challenge. We just talked about this, but it's no small feat. We need to ensure that there's enough content for all industries. So AEC, environment, municipal, tech. And then we've got all types of users, beginners, advanced, people who are just exploring. And then we have all levels of experience in GIS. As GIS is becoming broader and touching more of these industries, we have people who are just using online because that's what they're comfortable with, and they're new users for maybe a year. And then we have people who have been here for 30 or 40 years, have a wealth of knowledge. And it's like, how do we teach them something new? How do we impress that person? Right? So, touching on as many products and capabilities as possible, it's quite a challenge. And while doing all that, I've also got to prepare a breakout session and a plenary session myself, right? So I've got to get myself ready for the stage as well. And more on that is deciding what not to include. It's often harder to decide which solution, which story doesn't get told. And there's so much great content, but we have to be strategic, not to overwhelm anyone. It is 2 days, and we don't want them leaving so saturated that they can't retain anything. But we really want them to leave inspired and impressed by their colleagues.
I think it's important to note that balance between what gets included, what doesn't get included. We have to cover all of our bases. We can't just front load on one topic and not touch on these others. Are there any particular sessions, themes, or activities that stand out for this year?
So this year, in a lot of industries in GIS and Esri is no difference. Like AI is a big topic, and we will have that. We will have a session on that. We will have that featured in our plenary. I think someone on the call here, Michelle Brake, is actually going to be delivering part of that content there. So that's going to be pretty awesome to see that. There's other things that are big topics too. Climate change, like that is something that will percolate up in a few places here. I know earlier today we were just meeting with Alex Miller, our president, who's going to be doing a talk at part of the plenary, and he's talking about Esri Canada initiatives, and he's getting into his head like conservation now is a big component. That's going to start to percolate up into his talk as well. So particular themes, those are some that we have there. Our plenary is going to have ArcGIS demos in it, which are going to be fantastic. That's going to be a big part of it, and user success stories as well. We're going to have 4 different users that we're going to be showcasing on stage about how they're doing. But a few other things that we haven't done really before in the past that we're going to have this year are special interest groups, where we have leaders in different industries coming together and answering questions from an Esri Canada host about like how they're handling the different challenges that they have in their industry, or how they manage people, or how they just manage the day-to-day expectations of being in charge of a GIS system or being a director in those areas as well. The other one other thing I'll point out is we relaunched our YPN as Your Professional Network, and that is going to be really exciting. I believe it's on day 2. We're going to have a lunch type get together there, where there'll be an activity, and people can get there to learn from each other, have a little fun. We have a YPN booth as well, or I should say kiosk, I think we're calling them this year. But anyways, that's going to be part of it too. So across the board, we're going to have all kinds of like interesting sessions, interesting themes. We're going to have a lot of like core ArcGIS tech sessions too. Like that's kind of, if I go back to my roots, the technology is where it's at, and the technology shows great. We're also going to have a lot of sessions on ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, and other sort of special areas of our software that maybe people don't know about and should use their opportunity at the conference to take that in.
And I think it's great that we point out the role that all of the tech's going to play in the conference. We're a technology company. It makes sense that we're going to focus on the technical side. The thing that I always look forward to, though, is the user sessions. I'm wondering for this year, what role do those user submitted presentations play in shaping the agenda?
It can't be understated. It's a huge role. These sessions bring the authenticity and the diversity to the program. And the survey says, that survey that Mike pulled out, it really showed that users want to learn from each other. They want to learn, how are others streamlining processes in their organizations? How are they using XYZ solution to save time or to help make their organization successful? We received almost 100 submissions, which after 6 years of not doing conferences is a huge surprise, right? It just shows to what degree people want to be sharing these stories.
I was shocked that we got that many submissions for sessions. It was shocking, and it was great to see, because that means that there's a real desire for people to get out there and do this.
Honestly, some of these stories are really impressive, and I think I'll probably seek out some of these users at the conference just to talk about it, because it's a shame almost we don't get to showcase them, but everyone is doing such impressive work, and it's really great that we'll be able to showcase it, we'll be able to discuss it, and it's another reason really to exchange with everyone there, because you have no idea what they're working on, and it's great.
I think that's definitely a lot of things to look forward to. And maybe we can get some sneak peeks into those in future podcast episodes
Mm.
with some of those users that are presenting. Because I agree. The user sessions, there's always so much interesting work that's happening across the country. We can't know about all of it. So when we get that opportunity to hear, it's pretty magical. Now, I'm wondering though, we've heard all of the planning and the work that's going into it, from keynotes to carpet to our break sessions to networking. Were there any challenges or surprises that have come up along the way?
I think the challenge is because Mary Jane spoke to her roots being in professional services. My roots were in technical marketing and being involved in our conferences pre-COVID. And when you've done something before, you want to go back to the way you did it before. Naturally, you think like, this is how we used to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And it's 6 years removed from doing conferences. Some of that information is still valid, but when you start looking at, hey, if we're going to do it this way, are we going to be using this technology? Are we going to be using this process? Do we need to do sessions like this? Do we need to set up our rooms like this? Like all of these things, and just being able to learn as you're going, being open to new ways of doing, planning an event and executing an event. That is what was that was surprising. How excited our staff was too. I know when we kind of announced it, I think internally back in January at one of our earlier sales or year kickoff things, and somebody put it right up on LinkedIn right away, and we were like, "Don't announce it yet to the public. We want to get our messaging right and that kind of thing." So we got that fixed pretty quick. But staff were just excited, and really just the volume of tasks that need to be done to put on a conference. Like we've kind of outlined a lot of these little things, little nooks and crannies of things that we're finding. Um, just the amount of logistics that need to be involved, and the fact that we pretty much started doing this in January. And as we're getting closer to doing the event, there's still a lot more to do, which is exciting and part of the fun.
I'll say for my part, everything is surprising, right? I'm used to being in the audience. I was a fan. And then I made my way into Esri Canada. And now I get to kind of be pulled behind the curtain. And it's so much fun. It is really great seeing everything come together. And it's almost like we don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to see everything. But it is surprising. And luckily for me, Mike has been pretty gracious and I can question a bit of this process. And, hopefully I'm making positive changes. But for me, everything is just a new surprise and it's a new adventure.
Mm-hmm. And acknowledging that you have both been really into the finer details of what's happening throughout the event, let's take a bit of a step back and think of that bigger, higher level picture. What role do you think events like these play in the broader Canadian GIS community?
I think it reinforces that we're part of a vibrant national community, right? I think we should focus on the fact that this is a Canadian GIS event. It's a chance to discuss with thousands of unofficial colleagues. You get to talk with people who share similar challenges and goals and passions for geomatics, and they really help to discuss or to target those Canadian priorities. And things like Indigenous community resilience, climate adaptation, infrastructure modernization. How do we get to that? So I think that's where it's really interesting and it's really necessary to have events like this.
I'll add one part to that here is events like this make people up their game. So they they come to an event and they see new technology. Mary Jane spoke to how users want to learn from other users. They see another user perhaps doing a workflow or talk to someone who's doing something and they think, wow, look at that. I've got to do that as well. Like I got to get to that point too. So it's sort of it feeds that drive for innovation, and it feeds that feeds into the greater GIS community, and then more are doing more with the technology and basically making more of a difference with what they're doing and being more impactful.
And I'm wondering, from that big picture again, how do you want attendees to continue their learning and connections after the event? We know it's going to make a big impact on site, but where does that continue throughout the year afterwards?
Well, I'd encourage everyone to try something new that they've seen, right? So take away what you've seen and try to apply even one thing and make your workflow or make your process even better, or, get better results. And try to stay curious on how peers are using technology, whether it be via LinkedIn or YouTube. And one personal favorite of mine is the What's Making Me Mappy, right? So Alison O'Brien has been taking care of that for a minute here. And it's a fun way to learn something new quickly. So even if you don't have too much time, I think those are ways to stay a little bit in the know.
I'd add to that. You talked about what's making me mappy. I would say absolutely listen to Geographical Thinking. I would recommend once again episodes 14 and 96 if you want to go to the back catalog. That's a good one to do. But seriously, use the different channels that we have out there to learn what we have. Podcast is one of them, our webinars, other events that we host. GIS Day as well is coming up shortly after. I know, Michelle, you have a huge, GIS Day in Canada. You have a huge hand in putting that event on. You've been instrumental in past years, and I know I've been involved in the discussions about what's happening. It's going to be awesome. More specifically, what I want our users to do when they come to this conference, and I kind of talked about this when they're upping their game, and Mary Jane touched this a little bit, like try something new. I want someone to see something at the conference, be it delivered by us, be it by another user, and then I want them to take what they're seeing there, apply it at their place of work, apply something new, be inspired by that, and then the 2026 user conference or the 2027 user conference, I want to see that user presenting a session about that. That's the biggest thing that I can see as how they're going to continue their learning, apply what they've learned. Our measure of success will be like they're coming back later years, showing what they've done based on something that they've learned here. That's like, if that happens, it's going to be great.
And I think that's great ways to think about where do we go afterwards. But to wrap up our episode, for someone who's never attended before, what advice would you give them to get the most out of the conference?
So obviously plan your outfit according to any geographical theme. No, I'd start by looking at the tracks, right? Read the abstracts and plan out your visit. Think, give a little bit of thought of what you'd like to see, and don't just stick to your industry. Let yourself be inspired by other successes, other uses. It really gets you creative. And then maybe mix it up between user and technical sessions, right? So this is something we haven't touched too much on, but in the tracks, we'll have technical sessions delivered by Esri Canada staff, and then we'll have user sessions. And I think technical sessions are great for learning something new or digging deep into a subject, and user sessions are absolutely great for use cases. So mix it up, get what you need out of it. The last thing, and that's something I'm really excited about, are the kiosks. I'd make time to go talk with our specialists, to go talk with our industry leads, go make FaceTime with them, and make use of the time that they're there and they have to answer your questions.
Yeah, that's right. They have to. They're contractually obligated to answer the questions, which is a very important point of this. I would say show up early, stay late as you can, get the most out of the 2 days. Like they're going to be great. I've mentioned that before. Like the doors are going to open, I think, on the first day at 7 a.m. And we're going to be going right till 6 o'clock with the social. So stay as late as you can. I'm going to sound like maybe you're a teacher in high school or elementary school, but when you come to the sessions, sit up front, be engrossed, be right up there, get into it. Focus on what's being told and being shared. Take some photos of what's going on. That's a little bit of just simple advice that I like to adhere to on anything that I attend.
Yeah, and say hi if you listen to the podcast and you thought, that I was funnier than Mike. You just let me know.
We'll see who they come up to, but I think we've both been pretty good.
And with that, thank you so much, Mike and Mary Jane, for joining us for a quick look into what's happening with the user conference. Because planning a user conference takes a lot of work, but the payoff is the energy and connections that happen when the community comes together. Again, a big thank you to you both for joining me today and giving us a peek behind the scenes. We hope you'll join us at the next UC and see it all for yourself. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep thinking geographically.